I'm in Colorado. That's where our company is based out of. And we have a very short growing season. And typically, if you plant your tomatoes outside, you'll be lucky to get one that turns ripe on the plant before it freezes. So, with our domes, we're able to start our tomatoes as early as January. And then we were harvesting our first tomatoes in March, April timeframe. So, it really gives you a jump start on the traditional growing season that you have. When you are thinking about a four-season greenhouse, you do have to think a little bit farther than just a structure itself that is absorbing sunlight. You really have to think about insulation and ventilation and the ability for the structure to absorb heat and also release that heat as well. So really honing in on the temperature regulation. And so that's one of the great things about a dome is that it is extremely energy efficient and it also helps to have even light throughout the day. A geodesic dome refers to the shape of the structure. So it is a structure that is comprised of triangles. And there are different frequencies, which refers to the number of segments there are between pentagons. So the geodesic structure is made up of triangles that make up pentagons and hexagon shapes. So not only are we honing in on the inherent strength of the dome shape, but we're also really using that natural curvature of the dome to get as much sunlight as we can, and thus helping us warm up our thermal mass. And that's really what makes this work all year round. The thermal mass is a form of passive solar technology that we've incorporated into our greenhouses. It's something that you can do with any style of a greenhouse, but what's nice about what we've done is that we use this thermal mass in the form of an above ground pond. It takes up about 10% of the floor space, which does sound like a lot, but it's still usable growing space and it's still a functional part of your greenhouse. And the way that the pond works is that it's always positioned on the north wall. And it's coupled with a few different technologies. So there is a reflective insulation, which you can kind of see behind me here. This is always behind the pond, and this helps to reflect the sun's rays back into the greenhouse when the sun is low on the horizon in the winter. And it actually helps to deflect some of the sun's rays away in the summertime when you're not really looking to heat your greenhouse, you're trying to keep it cool. So the pond water absorbs the heat of the sun during the day through the dark painted sheet metal, which creates the pond shape. And then it slowly releases that heat at night, which avoids the extreme temperature swings that you have with a traditional style greenhouse that doesn't have any thermal mass in it. You can make modifications if you do have an existing structure to allow you to garden throughout the winter. When it comes to a deep winter greenhouse, you do have to think about the materials that you're using to build the structure. So like a traditional style hoop house that just has a plastic sheet greenhouse covering isn't going to be able to retain that much heat. So you could add some thermal mass in there. You could utilize row covers to help you get a little bit more out of your season. You could adapt the concept of the thermal mass. You could do milk jugs just painted a dark color. You could do barrels that are a dark color. Whatever materials you also are using to create your raised beds or your flooring of your greenhouse will also impact your thermal mass. So if you're really looking for heat retention, using a stone, paver, or a brick material for your flooring and your beds can help you retain some extra heat. But you have to keep in mind that in the summertime, that's going to make it a little bit warmer. So then you'll be looking at ways to cool it. Those strategic choices will help you extend your season, even if you're in a regular style greenhouse. What's great about the geodesic structure is because it utilizes triangles instead of a traditional rectangular frame, it's very strong. The triangle makes it a very rigid structure, whereas if you had a structure of the same size that was made out of a rectangular shape, you would have to add a lot of extra braces and supports to accommodate heavy snow and wind loads. Whereas with a geodesic structure, you don't have to do that. It does it on its own. We have a customer in Haines, Alaska, who sent us some photos. She had 6 feet of snow on top of her greenhouse. You couldn't even really tell that there was a dome there. And it did just fine. The other nice thing about the shape is that it sheds the snow off naturally. So your greenhouse will get warmer and the snow will start to shed off. And then we actually recommend leaving some of the snow built up on your north wall because it will kind of get a little warm and it'll start to create an air gap in between your pile of snow and your dome, which further insulates the greenhouse. But one of the things that makes our greenhouses able to retain that heat is that we do have insulation. So there is a 2-foot wooden insulated foundation wall that's part of all of our greenhouse kits. And so it's kind of like the walls of your house where it's a wooden frame with studs, and then you fill in the gaps with a rigid foam insulation. You can even do spray foam insulation. You can get really in depth with it if you need to. And then we also utilize a 5-wall polycarbonate material. So if you are looking to kind of rehab your greenhouse or you're looking into getting a greenhouse, the 5-wall polycarbonate has an R value of about 2.8, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you're talking about greenhouse coverings, a plastic film is going to have close to nothing. So that little bit of extra is going to help keep your greenhouse warmer in the winter and cooler in the summertime. And so this creates its own ecosystem within your greenhouse. So you'll have fish and plants, and you'll use the water from your pond to irrigate your gardens as a natural fertilizer. Some people just opt to put like traditional style goldfish or koi fish in the pond more for ornamental purposes. People often do that because they are a hardier fish, so they can tolerate the heat of the summer and the cool winters. If you're looking for fish for food production, we do have people who have opted for tilapia, bluegill, catfish. There's lots of different options. But when you get outside of the realm of goldfish and koi, you just need to be a little bit more aware of the requirements for each of those type of fish. Like tilapia, for example, your water can't go below 50 degrees or they won't survive. So you just have to be a little bit cognizant of that. We do have people who have turned the pond that comes with the growing dome kit into the main tank of an aquaponics system. So they have put in PVC pipes and filters, and they've pumped the water through deep water culture beds. And we do have some examples of that on our website. There's actually somebody up in Boulder who did that concept with a 42. So very large pond, lots of aquaponics happening in there. You don't have to be limited to just pond plants for the top of the pond. We manufacture some floating planters, but you can also find or make your own using a mesh and basically like a pool noodle is the most inexpensive way to do it. And then you could plant things like lettuce, tomatoes, herbs, and you can actually grow edible plants right on the surface of your pond water. So there's lots of different ways to use the pond besides just the thermal mass. So what we typically do is we end up planting our plants, and we're in zone 5B, just for reference. We will start all of our winter crops around mid-September. And that way they have a good amount of time where it's warm still, but not super hot. And there's still plenty of daylight hours for them to get started. And then we'll go ahead and get them transplanted and they'll grow throughout the winter time. Your growth does slow down pretty significantly in the winter, regardless of what style greenhouse you're growing in, just because of the limited daylight hours. And so getting that jump start in the fall, and what you'll typically be starting is going to be things like leafy greens, brassicas, your kales, broccoli, cauliflower, all of those kinds of things do really well through the winter months, as well as your root vegetables. So carrots, beets, parsnips, turnips, all of those kinds of things as well can be grown throughout the winter. So right now we do have a lot of our summer stuff planted, and this will last us until that September timeframe when we get ready to transition over for winter. So right next to me, I have marigolds, which are great for pests because aphids and whiteflies and things don't like the scent that they put off, so they can help with pest control. They also help with pollination. So we have these, I'm sitting in our doorway, so these are right by the door. We also have some dahlias right behind me. Over here, there's a fig tree. That's also one of the benefits of the dome shape is that you get a lot more vertical height than you have in a traditional style greenhouse. So you can grow trees. And what's great about a fig, especially if you're looking to garden throughout the winter, is that they're deciduous. So they'll lose their leaves in the wintertime. And that way you're not impacting the amount of sunlight that the rest of your garden is going to get. We also have lots of, what else do we got in here? Cucumbers, tomatoes. There's some eggplants right behind me. There's a giant tomato that's like 8 feet tall, which is over here. So lots of variety in here. And then, like I said, in the wintertime, we'll transition over to mostly leafy greens and brassicas. It's always a great idea for any gardener that's transitioning from season to season to test their soil. You'll want to make sure that you have enough nutrients in your soil, especially because in the summertime, a lot of us gardeners like to grow heavy feeder crops, like our tomatoes, for example, will uptake a lot of the nitrogen out of the soil. And then your brassicas are also going to be pretty heavy feeders. So you want to make sure that you put some of those nutrients back into the soil before you start your winter garden. And we also like to winterize our greenhouse, which is something that you can do with any type of a greenhouse that you have. What that looks like for us is that we're going to disengage all of our vents. So we're going to take the pistons out so that they're not trying to open during the day, because we really want to trap as much as that of the heat as we can. And we're also going to do the same type of a thing with our fans, where we're going to either turn the thermostats all the way up, so they're only kicking on if it gets 100 degrees in the greenhouse, which we don't really see in the wintertime. And oftentimes we will go ahead and put some insulation inside of the fan or over the opening, just to kind of give us that little bit of extra security. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I have been with Growing Spaces for the last 5 years, and I have worked in pretty much every department that we have here. I started out making components and worked my way up the ranks. I am now in the marketing department, and I actually have a growing dome myself. So I live and breathe everything that we do here, and I really believe in our product and that it can help gardeners in all different climates and states, even different countries, grow food all year round. You can always give us a call. Our local number is 970-731-2120. So give us a call. We're always happy to talk to people about different ways that they can make their dream gardens into reality. We also have a website, growingspaces.com. And we're on pretty much any social platform that you might be on. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We have a really large collection of videos on our YouTube channel with lots of gardening advice, not just pertaining to the dome, but also just in general. So it's a great resource. And back to Facebook, if you are interested in learning more specifically about growing domes, we have a public group called Growing Dome Enthusiasts, and it has a little over 10,000 members in it now. So it's a great place for you to be able to kind of put out your feelers, ask some questions, see if there's people in your area. We found that a lot of our community that we have that own growing domes loves to share it. So people might invite you over to come see it in person.